Former Vice President Joe Biden this morning reacted to President Trump's speech yesterday and to some of the violence and the looting. He's endorsed specifically some legislation in response to these riots. Let's take a listen.
I call on the Congress to act this month on measures that will be the first step in this direction. Starting with real police reform, Congressman Jeffries has a bill to outlaw chokeholds. Congress should put it on the president's desk in the next few days. There are other measures to stop transferring weapons of war to police forces, improve oversight and accountability, to create a model use of force standard. That also should be made law.
Pretty interesting response there, Krystal. And one of the things I want to note as context is that proposal to ban chokeholds, just to give an idea of how much has moved on this, Bill de Blasio at one point said that he would veto such an effort as the mayor of New York. So you can see just how much the needle or the Overton window on this has changed. It's the first kind of specific legislative call that we've seen from Joe Biden here in his reaction.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. We were digging into some of the stats. I think it was one of the news outlets dug into who had been subjected to chokeholds in Minneapolis specifically, which has had a particular problem, and what percent had lost consciousness as a result of that exact chokehold move that we saw ultimately kill George Floyd. And it was 3/5 of those who had lost consciousness were Black men. It was overwhelmingly young men who had been subjected to this particular technique, but disproportionately young Black men. So look, this seems like a no-brainer in terms now of specific outcomes, and it's a good first step. But as we've discussed, and let me also give credit to Biden. I think that this speech was well done. I think he sounded, in contrast to President Trump, I think he sounded like a steady hand, like a calming and unifying voice. I think that in comparison to the chaos that we're seeing on the streets and with the pandemic and joblessness and all that we are experiencing right now, I think it was a good political moment for him. Obviously, you and I both know that he's far from an ideal spokesperson on these issues. Right. I mean, we watched with our jaws agape with his Charlemagne the God interview when, if you're not for me, then you ain't Black. And even more significantly, in that same interview, which was, just over a week ago, he vehemently defended the 94 crime bill, vehemently defended his role in mass incarceration. And I think it is very telling that, yes, okay, ban the chokeholds, let's do it, all on board with it, let's go, good to go, yes. But that sort of a step is such a small nippling around the edges of the more systemic problem. And so, yes, better than Trump, way better. Like Trump, to me, was terrifying yesterday, and the actions that he is taking in response to this will rip the country apart and turn it into a war zone. And I think that is wholly unacceptable. But in terms of actual change that is going to mean that we can move past these protests and actually provide for the economic health and dignity needs of our people, not a lot of confidence that Joe Biden's going to be the one that ultimately delivers on that.
Well, and the funny thing, right, Krystal, is that as you pointed to, before this speech, he had that appearance in a church yesterday where he made a remark which caught both of our eyes. Let's take a look at it.
And the idea that instead of standing there and teaching a cop when there's an unarmed person coming at him with a knife or something to shoot him in the leg instead of in the heart is a very different thing. There's a lot of different things that can change.
Yeah. Maybe train them in de-escalation, not shooting at people altogether. How about that? Just a crazy idea. Don't shoot them in the leg. Don't shoot them in the heart. Don't shoot them all together. Other police forces around the world, by the way, managed to do this, just not ours, for reasons that have not just to do with policing, they have to do with policing, but also have to do with the structure of our society and the idea that we have a certain group that needs to be protected and a certain group that needs to be policed.
Well, I saw this and I was like, wow, it's funny because even though I'm on the right, because I'm, a co-host with you and we have a lot of leftists on the show as well, I'm like, I understand their mindset. And I saw that and I was like, Biden could not have said something worse in order to show that he really doesn't get the fundamental complaint here, right? Which is that, as you point to, people have been calling or from the left at least, have been calling for an end to the police chokehold since I think Eric Garner's death, which was, I don't even know, I think it was 7 years ago now or 5 years ago, something like that. And so the fact that he's only willing to go that far kind of just shows you how much out of step he remains with some of the activist branch of his own party. But I guess to be fair to him, which is that the activist branch of their party was, deliberately quashed in the 2020 Democratic primary. So they do technically have the power in this situation.
Indeed, he does. No other choice. Thank you all so much for watching today. Our abbreviated, a little bit of a different rising. We're going to have another version like this tomorrow. Then we'll be back to full show on Thursday. Everybody stay safe out there. Appreciate you all.
Can't wait to see you guys. See you.